Hey, Coach. Thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. I do appreciate you joining me today, representing the Final Four University of Mary Washington. I do appreciate it. This is it. This is a first. You've raised the bar on some. You're the first assistant coach that I have had on the channel since I started this a year and a half ago. So congratulations to that. You will get a golden Rice Krispie treat for that. So
that was great.
Okay. So if I got it, you've been at Mary Washington for 4 years. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Just finished up the 4th year this year.
Nice. Could you just talk about your experience and sort of your trajectory to get to that spot? And maybe you could just talk about if you have career aspirations beyond it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So just some background as far as general playing and then coaching pathways is I started playing collegiate soccer at Lynchburg College.
Oh, yeah.
Now the University of Lynchburg.
Yep.
Actually I played underneath Tommy Denuzzo, who you just interviewed recently. He was my grad assistant there. And as I was approaching graduation, really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I still was really heavily involved with just coaching in general. So I was working at a local club, doing an internship there. I actually, the spring of my senior year, tried to be at every single session for the current team as far as the non-traditional pathway. Trying to interview to potentially be a grad assistant. It didn't work out. My best friend, who's currently the associate head coach there, he ended up landing that job, and he's been there ever since. So once that happened, Tommy reached out, asked if I wanted to come up to Maine and become an assistant coach, and I immediately said yes. Figured out I'd have to pack my bags, move 12 hours north. Did all of that, was up there for 1 year with him, and then was looking for graduate assistant positions. Ended up at a really small school, Division III in Henniker, New Hampshire, called New England College.
Yeah.
Was there for 2 years, got to be a part of that program's first conference championship in history. Went to the NCAA tournament with them. Actually got to coach a kid who ended up at VCU, got drafted by the San Jose Earthquakes.
Wow.
So I've had some really interesting places that I've been at. After New England College, went to VMI for a year. Wanted to just really experience the Division I level. It was really interesting, really eye-opening. Kind of gave me an idea that I wanted to get back to Division III. And at that point, I was interviewing for head coaching positions at the Division III level. Did one position, didn't work out. I ended up going to interview with University of Mary Washington. Fortunately, Jason Kilby had known me previously through Tommy Denuzzo. Again, it's interesting how this network is so big but so small.
Yeah.
And ended up getting that job, and honestly, love it. It's a fantastic place. I see myself being here for a while, but personally, my aspiration, I would love to be a Division III head coach. I've already gone through, multiple interview processes. A lot of people have. It's definitely really tough to get that position. Everybody's fighting for it, but I'm at a place right now where we compete. We're top 25 every year. It's a phenomenal program and just a great area. Fredericksburg's really
beautiful.
Cool place.
Yeah. I'm a Civil War buff, so Fredericksburg
ranks
very highly. Yeah. Okay, so I do. So you were at VMI Division I, which I'll just say is probably a unique situation there, right? Because it's an academy, it's a military academy, so you have to find it probably makes it different in that regard. But could you just talk a little bit about what were some of the things? What were I don't want to say that drove you back to Division III, but what was it about the Division I experience that you were like, you know what, I'd like the Division III a little bit more than Division I? I'm legit curious because I haven't really spoken to anybody about that.
I mean, It's definitely different. I think Division One is just you're allowed to be a lot more involved with the student athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, like I feel as though they're not really necessarily as independent as those
Mm-hmm.
Division Three athletes really are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Division One, you go through your traditional season. After your traditional season's over, you get into your like 8 hour segment. After 8 hour segment's over, you get into your 20 hour segment. So you're
Mm-hmm.
going from August till whenever school ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Division Three, I mean, you get your traditional season August, mid-August to, hopefully that first week of December. And
Yeah.
then after that, kids are kind of on their own until you do your non-traditional segment.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a lot more here. You guys get to do what you want to do. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to get better, you want to improve, it's going to be on you. I think it creates a more tight-knit group
Yeah.
because, I can speak specifically to here at UMW is our guys are going 5 days a week when we're not coaching them.
Yeah.
Whether it's lifting, whether it's futsal, whether it's they're
Yeah.
doing training sessions outdoors at night, 8 to 10, like it's
Mm-hmm.
all on them. And then we get to really kind of see how the group's progressed without even
Mm-hmm.
having us as a staff be there. So
Yeah.
I think Division One, I loved it. It was great. Lexington was phenomenal. VMI taught me a ton as far as organizational perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Really just trying to, again, being able to recruit at a place that's very difficult to recruit to.
Yeah.
But like I just knew because I was a Division Three student athlete that I wanted to get back. I really enjoy it, and I just feel like it's a little more hands off. But like truthfully, when you do get your time with your student athletes, is you can really make an impact.
Yeah. 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 That's interesting. I mean, that's what everybody says, right? That there's as a Division three athlete versus a Division one athlete, you do have a little bit more latitude, a little bit freer, that sort of thing. But to hear it from you is that's interesting, right? That from that end, because you were knee deep in it. Okay, where am I? But you guys play in the. I'm intrigued by the Coast to Coast Conference. Can you give me your perspective on the conference? Because it is unique, right? You don't play each other. You don't play in conference schedule, and I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. Again, that was really we were in the CAC, and then CAC teams were leaving, and that had been kind of a trickle down effect. It's been happening for I think it was a year or two previous to the year that I had gotten there. So athletic department really knew is, hey, we need to be able to place ourselves in a conference where obviously we could get that automatic qualification spot, and not have to worry about going into those pool bids. But the way that it works for us is, I think we have 9 teams currently. Really, the only in-conference teams that we play are Christopher, Newport, and
Yeah.
Salisbury, just because they're regionally
They're regional, right? Yeah.
right within distance. We're playing CNU twice a year, and for the last few years, it's been 3 times a year. So that's a
Yeah.
tough matchup.
Oh my gosh.
And Salisbury as well. But I think it's interesting because everything for us is based off of the Massey ratings. So I don't know if you have any familiarity with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, very, very
All
much
that
so.
algorithm, interesting.
Yeah.
I never knew about it until we started utilizing it. But each year we get hosted by a different school. So the first year we competed in C2C, we hosted the conference tournament. We ended up playing Whitewater that first day, and then we played CNU in the final. I think it was maybe a day or two after. And then this past year, the conference tournament was hosted at Salisbury.
Yeah.
This next year, we will be going to California. Hopefully, we have a good season and we're able to get there.
Yeah.
But I think it's a unique thing because a lot of teams in general, it's not like you're getting the opportunity to travel to the West Coast at a Division III school.
Yeah.
Unless you're in the UAA or you're in one of those conferences that has the ability to travel all over.
Travel. Yeah.
So
That's true.
It's definitely a lot different. I also think the stakes are a lot higher when you get to the conference tournament because truthfully, you only know, for us at least, we only know Salisbury and CNU because we play them. The rest, we have to try and scout our tails off,
Oh,
see
nice.
what these teams are doing. And they're very good, very, very good sides.
Yeah. That's interesting. I never even thought about that. That's true. Like, your conference tournament is no different, excluding Salisbury and Christopher Newport, is no different than NCAA tournament game, right? Because you have I don't want to say zero visibility, but I'm sure there's not enough time to scout
It's tough.
like it's right beforehand, like
Yeah.
during the season,
Yeah.
just because you never know who's going to end there. So
It's tough. I mean,
um,
we had a matchup with, we were fortunate to play Salisbury and then CNU in the conference tournament this year.
yeah,
So we had already played those two teams previously. But again,
right,
that's we're playing these teams for the third time. We
yeah,
literally know each other's weaks and strengths
yeah,
to perfection. So how are you going
yeah,
to beat this team on this day?
yeah. Yeah, but when you're facing the banana slugs, right? Like I mean, they're possibly the last team you're going to think of during
Yeah.
the regular season, and then so if you have to play them, oh my gosh, the homework that you have to do to just sort of prepare for them is, like I
Possibly
said,
one
is
of the coolest mascots in NCAA.
I rank that as number one. I'm quite frankly, just like, but I have no idea, and I refuse to Google it. I'd just rather, I want to be told by the coach or do an interview where they actually give me a definition of a banana slug. So, because I don't, I'm assuming it's a slug that likes bananas, but I don't know that.
I mean,
So,
you could definitely do a 45-minute segment on
yeah,
just that itself.
yeah. Um, all right. I'm curious about this because it right this dovetails into like the success that you have. But how big of a deal is your team culture for your program?
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, how important is that? And especially since right you do have you're at a very very high level.
Yeah. So I think before I got here, the reason that this program, again, since Jason Kilby took over, I think he's been in charge like 10 or 11 years now. That's really one of the things that he had been focusing on is just creating a team culture. Every team that, is able to have a good amount of success or just be consistent, they always have a
Yeah,
strong team
yeah,
culture. I've been fortunate in places in the past, Lynchburg, Coach Yeager did a great
yeah,
job. We always had phenomenal team building exercises. We
yeah.
did things outside of the box that had nothing to do with soccer, but it all tied back in.
Hmm.
Working with Tommy, probably one of the most unique individuals as far as going outside of the box to do
Hmm.
different things and to make the players think.
Yeah.
Here, Coach Kilby, in the last couple of years, we partnered with a guy named Dan Abrams.
Hmm.
So he's like a sports psychologist.
Oh yeah,
He works
yeah.
with some big time players. He works with some big time clubs. So we've utilized his online network that
Hmm.
he has, the
Hmm.
platform that he's created, and we utilize that during preseason, kind of introduce our players to different techniques to not only help yourself when you find yourself in these negative moments, but
Hmm.
really get yourself in the right mind frame when you're
Yeah.
playing. And I think that's helped because they can do it individually. We can encourage them to do it by like giving them homework, for example, and
Yeah.
doing that. But we can also have them break up into small groups, have them discuss. And I think
Yeah.
it really opens up their eyes onto, hey, it's more than just like tactics. It's more than
Yeah.
just technical ability. It's more
Yeah.
than just the athletic ability. It's really a lot that goes
Yeah.
on in here.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
honed it on that specifically. I also think for us, team culture goes outside of that. Is we're very, very involved with the community service around here in
Hmm.
Fredericksburg. We've led the department, I think, the last couple of years as far as the amount of community service hours completed. We work
Hmm.
with Micah Ministries. We help feed the homeless. We've
Hmm.
gone and restored homes that have burned down. We've cleaned
Hmm.
up the trails and the trail systems. These
Hmm.
guys are always active. So the more that we can keep our players together
Hmm.
outside of training sessions, I think the
Hmm.
more that team culture just continues to get better and better.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
You're
It's
good.
the day job. Um, all right, so I'll ask you because you've again sort of been involved at a bunch of different levels. You obviously come from it. You've done Division 1. You've done Division 3. What does youth soccer do right in the context of the kids that you end up recruiting? And yeah,
Yeah,
so
great question. So I've also been happy enough since I finished college that I have been coaching in some capacity on the club level
hmm
every single year that I've been coaching, except for this one. I took a year off, needed a little bit of a break. It's a
break
lot
a
when you're
lot.
coaching like four teams at once.
Yeah.
Um, but this 2 years ago, so not this past year, but the year previous, as I was coaching at the local club in Fredericksburg called FFC. was coaching the oldest boys group, so seniors in high school and all of that, and really got to experience it firsthand, just, how much influence not only the coaches can have, but the environment that they're in. So I think for us is, the clubs are doing such a good job at really just, I think, developing these players from the all-around perspective. Really for us is we don't go outside of Northern Virginia area. Like, that's our recruiting hotbed. We can take 10 kids from there every single year and know that we're going to have a competitive team.
Yeah.
Richmond as well. Like, that's where we're pulling most of our kids. But I think the club coaches and the clubs in general, they're doing such a good job at helping to develop the players these days. And I think it's because they're getting they're more unique with the video recording, using those systems, teaching the players about what they're doing right in their position, what they're doing wrong in their position, how they can improve. I think the players are more well-versed in terms of knowing what they want from schools, not just kind of going through the process and being naive. So a lot of the times when we get on the phone with these kids, or, again, young men about to be collegiate athletes, is they know what they want. They have like 5 or 6 questions, and they've done a ton of research on
research.
Where in the past, we'll say 5-6 years, I think that's the difference that I've noticed, is they're just a lot more professional at a younger age.
Yeah.
Like, we have kids that are freshmen in high school reaching out to us, and it's like, man, we're not going to recruit you right now. There's no need, but that's phenomenal that you're so far ahead of it.
Yeah. So you just recruit. You said you recruit from the Northern Virginia area
primarily. I mean, we'll again, if there's a kid from California that really likes us and wants to come here, sure, great. We will definitely take a look. But I mean, we just have, if you went through our roster and you looked, like, it's all Northern Virginia, it's all Richmond. I mean, we'll have a couple kids from like New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania in the past, but I mean, Virginia is the place.
Yeah. That is that's not a bad place to be.
No.
Right? Like let's be real, Northern Virginia, you could definitely be in worse areas. It would be hard to find a better.
100%.
Right? Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like, you can pull 10 guys from Richmond, right? Like, it would be so easy, and hey, I have a nationally ranked team right there. Right. Like, that's the amazing thing.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to ask you, from a coach's perspective, the coaching staff, give us your assessment of the season.
Yeah. That's a good question. So going into the year, especially after the previous season ended, we ended up losing to Christopher Newport. I think it was the season full of ups and downs. We had a really young team. So we had graduated a decent senior class. A lot of guys in that COVID year didn't return. So we lost quite a bit as far as like having guys that had veteran leadership on the field, guys that had played a lot. So really going into this season, is our goal and our mindset from day one in our preseason meetings was we want to get back to the Final Four. Hasn't happened since 1997. That's literally a mantra and a motto that we kind of just talked about consistently all year long. And it was purposeful, as we wanted to get in these guys' heads. They I think, heard it consistently. They ended up being the ones that, whether session ended or game ended, it's like, hey, we want to get back there. This is what we want to do. I think as far as the just overall assessment is, we were absolutely thrilled with how it ended up. Regular season, like, we had I think really when we kind of hit that turning point is when we had a couple of tough results. We tied Stevenson away. We ended up losing to Christopher Newport at their place. Wasn't a controversial red card. We did end up getting a red card. We battled back, made it 1-1, and then we ended up losing off of an own goal. I think, like, once we got past that Stevenson game, the team just hit an absolute stride. I think we had like a month where we didn't lose a game. Our All-American ended up just doing what we had been waiting for him to do for quite a while and just kind of took over. And I think, we got to see a goalkeeper that was waiting for his turn for 4 years play probably some of the most spectacular minutes I've ever seen from a goalkeeper within that position in my time coaching. He was just great, whether it was big moments, phenomenal in terms of understanding like when to slow the game down, when to speed it up.
Yeah.
But like overall assessment was we were really happy, and going into the offseason, we lost to Williams. It was a tough loss. Tip of the hat to them. They were great. They were extremely organized. Their coach did a great job. Their players knew what they wanted to do. But yeah, our guys were really disappointed. So I think for us is we were like, all right, we do lose some key players. We got some really good guys right away. We were actually fortunate to get some kids in this spring from different schools that wanted to get out. And yeah, I mean, Coach Kilby is excited to get back after it. Our staff's I'm the younger guy on the staff.
I noticed some pictures. I was going to say, like,
I'm at the bright young age of 30. Kilby's like that middle tier. And then we've got two absolute legends. Coach Moser, who was at Marymount for like 26 years. And then Webb, who's a local high school coach who's been with UMW since that last Final Four appearance.
Yeah.
Which was crazy, right? Because when we won that game against Bowdoin, he was there. And I've never seen a man scream like that because of the excitement. But the boys and the staff were really happy. They really we all knew we achieved something, but as soon as that game ended, I think the good thing that I saw is like there was a determination right away. This group knows we want to get back there. Like we can do it again.
All right, so you just for everyone listening, you went 13-5-4 for the season. You won the conference against Christopher Newport after you lost to them. Which is pretty cool. Like, and then you made it to the Final Four, losing to Williams. I was actually at that game, but had to leave before before they scored. But what was it about the final against Christopher Newport? Did something change the way you played that final game? Was it more like what I call those emotion games where it's like they beat us, this is the final, let's go get them?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a unique rivalry, I would say. I mean, when I played at Lynchburg, we played CNU, and I never had any success against them. Ended my career against CNU at CNU. So going into UMW, it was kind of just didn't realize how level both these teams are. They're always nationally ranked. They're always getting good kids. Like a lot of the times that we're competing for student athletes, it's with Christopher Newport. It's right there. We're super parallel in terms of the way that our programs run. But I think going into that final we did get the opportunity to play him a second time. So we played him at home at our homecoming.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And that was a game we went up 2-0 in the first 15 minutes, I want to say. They battled back, made it 2-2. We scored to make it 3-2, all in the first half. And then the second half was 0-0. So we had a big crowd, and everybody was on the board in the second half. Yeah. But I think going into the final game we really, we knew what we wanted to do. We knew how they were going to play. And, I mean, I don't really think we changed a whole lot because both teams just know each other so well. I mean, we might have made a couple minor adjustments, and I think we did have some success. But if you look at the box score and you look at that game, we scored with a minute left.
Yeah.
No, excuse me. We scored with 17 seconds left in that game in regulation, and they scored with 1 second remaining from a throw-in where our keeper was in a perfect position, and their kid happened to just flick a header and put it back post. It was amazing. Then you go into overtime, both teams had their fair chances.
Yeah.
PKs, we were down. We thought we were done. I mean, they had I think it was either 1 or 2 goal advantage. Our keeper made 2 massive saves, and we ended up winning it there. So, both teams definitely changed a few things. I think for us we really know what we're good at. Yeah. And I think sometimes when we get away from that, I think we're a little less dangerous per se, but within that game, it was just evenly matched. I think I could have won, but we really just wanted to try and do our best to get into the NCAA tournament, and we couldn't have a chance as, hey, if we don't win this game, guys, that could be a season. So
that sometimes it is about just getting back to your roots, right? We're going to play a game. Not that you don't care, but We know them. That's fine. Now we have to concentrate on us for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I have to ask because it is really driving me nuts. All right. To your left, upper left, behind you, where I'm assuming that's your letter from Lynchburg College, but to the right, there's the Arsenal badge. I think that's the Lynchburg University badge.
That's correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have a verboten Redskins. Was that Washington Redskins? That used to be.
Oh yeah. Over. I mean, maybe in that corner.
Yeah.
I can't see it because my screen might be too small, and you're getting bigger. But
Yeah.
over there, I've got. So I'm a big DC sports fan. Have always.
Okay.
So love the Wizards. Old Redskins, now Commanders.
Yeah.
Lynchburg
Is
College.
that the Wizards? That's what that one is in the
So
upper
that was
left.
actually done from a friend in college.
Yeah.
I'm a big Arsenal fan. Then I've got Lynchburg College. That's my letter, and then a Thierry Henry poster.
Oh, nice.
That gave me before we went to England this past January.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I was driving. That one was driving me, and I couldn't figure out who that badge was.
Yeah.
On the left.
And
Okay.
then behind, I got that's a Final Four signed poster from all the guys. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Super cool.
Look, I've been saying to a lot of folks, like, look, I'm a really good guy. I don't expect anything from anybody. This is enough, this conversation. But at the end of this, I just want you to turn around, grab that poster, the NCAA one, take it down, and mail it to me. You don't have to send it overnight or anything. You could do the cheapest mailing that you could get.
We're just going standard shipping.
Yeah, standard shipping. Yeah.
Might find another option where we're super delayed. It could be years.
Yeah, could be a few years. Okay. Tell me about the game against Williams. Like, first of all, let me just come out and say, I thought what Coach Kirby, you and the rest of the staff, and obviously the team, I mean, just watching you play, I thought, like, it was fun to watch, right? The way you play, the way you guys move the ball, very intentional about everything you do. It's not just your head goes down and you launch it.
Yep.
So I'm just curious. Yeah, again, I should keep referencing Coach Kirby as well. But yeah, what's your perspective? What was that game like? What was the sentiment going into the Final Four? Let's start with that.
Yeah. So I mean, going into the Final Four, I mean, we were obviously riding a massive high. We got the chance to host those first two games. So hosted Marymount, that's like up the road, 35, 40 minutes. Team that had made it to the NCAA tournament for the first time. We knew they were going to be an extremely difficult game. Had an absolute stud of a striker, Leo Torres, who had a great year. So we were really happy to get out of that game 1-0. Mm-hmm. And then we played, I think it was that next day, against Ohio Wesleyan, who, as we know, is like one of the best in 3/NCAA soccer teams of all time, right?
That's a program.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, the closest thing to a program that's designed for the postseason, like built to get there and then to play the postseason.
Exactly. So, and the interesting thing about that game is, the fields were quite a mess, to be honest. Like, we were on grass. It had rained previously. They weren't in the best shape, so we were a little like sketch as far as if we'd be shifting to the turf or if we'd be on grass. The refs ended up saying, "Hey, we're good." So that one, again, another like 1-0 result. The thing we struggled with all season was we could not keep goals from being conceded. Yeah. Struggled defensively, which was interesting because we were really confident in our guys. Like, we knew we had a really good foundation as far as our backs, understanding what we needed to do, but we just couldn't keep the ball out of the net. Mm-hmm. But on the other end of the spectrum, we were really good at scoring goals. So to get 2 clean sheets and then head to being the one team in the pod that was driving like 10 hours to that third and fourth round, that was tough. But I mean, getting there was, it was really eye-opening for a lot of the guys that I don't think had been to Massachusetts at that point, just how cold it is that time of the year. So that day against Amherst, what a game. What a game. What a venue. Just what a unique atmosphere. You know, you never plan on going up like that quickly, or you never plan on just, again, like the way that game started, they could have scored a goal in the first maybe minute and a half.
Yeah.
Controversial PK non-call. I think
Yeah.
looking back at it, probably was one, but
Yeah.
we're fortunate enough to not have it get called. But yeah,
There's no VAR in
there's
Division III
no vote.
soccer, man. Like,
If they do it, ever implement that, that would be
yeah.
won't ever happen, thankfully. But no, that game was crazy. Ended up going 2-2. We go to overtime. We go to PKs again. He was made the tournament team. Our goalkeeper Griffin Hemmendinger. He's now actually going to be playing with the Annapolis Blues. Just started up this summer.
Yeah.
But I mean, he pulled through. All our guys nailed their PKs, and then we watched that game afterwards against Bowdoin.
Yeah.
For Bowdoin, and I think I don't remember if it was St. Lawrence. I just don't know off the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, wow, Bowdoin looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
Watched a lot of their videos. I mean, they were every team in the NESCAC, man. It's like if you go up against any of those guys, they're just so deep. They're talented. They have good players. And we were really fortunate in that game as well to kind of have a moment or two where I think we scored 2 goals in a minute. Carter Berg had 2 back-to-back. He got a PK, and then he scored a rebound. And we were able to find a way to finish that game 3-2. And going into Final Four, I mean, we were excited. We had already been down to Roanoke earlier in the season when we played at Roanoke College. We played against Roanoke. Had a game where we beat them 2-1. So guys are familiar with that field, that feeling, kind of the area itself.
Yeah.
But didn't really understand just like how big and special this was until we got there. Yeah. You know, we got to be hosted at a really cool banquet that the NCAA put on. All the teams came in. They did like some different sorts of games to compete against one another. Yeah. We ended up winning the Golden Ball, so that was our trophy that we didn't get a trophy down there. But going into the game, like the really cool thing is we had a ton of alumni reaching out. Like that was one thing that our staff wanted to give these guys is like, hey, you guys aren't alone in this. You have guys from the 97 team reaching out, like pushing you on, understanding that this doesn't happen all the time. I mean, it had been 20 plus years since our program's been there. So going into the game, like we were confident in what we had planned to do. I think we were confident in what we thought Williams was going to do. To be honest, thought they would be a little bit more conservative, would just make things extremely difficult defensively. And honestly, they came out and they pressed the heck out of us. They disrupted our build-up. We weren't able to have as much success as we had in previous games. And, I mean, I think it was pretty even back and forth. And then, comes down to it, their best player, I think that kid was an absolute beast. The center back, I think it was the last name maybe Offerman. But he had been responsible for marking Josh Kirkland the entire game. And, honestly, he made it one of his tougher games. And he ends up scoring a goal off service back post. He absolutely towers over one of our guys and just slams it home.
That was a great goal.
It's great.
It's a great goal.
Like, again, that's one where you see it happening, and there's just nothing you can do about
it.
And, it was disappointing afterwards, but, like, Coach Kilby said it again and again, and I know he'll continue to say it to these guys is, hey, you deserve to be here.
Yeah.
You guys put in the work from preseason all the way to now, like, hold your heads high, and hopefully we'll be back there again very, very, very soon. So we were happy. Like we still thought we played really well. We had every single guy that got on the field offered something to try and help us, give us the best chance to win. But that's just the brutality of sport. Wants us to win at that point. Right?
I will say that Williams had a game plan that really, I'll just say, it made you look unsettled for good stretches of the game. Like you just couldn't get comfortable with the ball. And to Williams' credit, like they made that happen, right? Yeah. And then whatever opportunities they have from the long throws to the corners, the set pieces, I mean they make the most of it. To make you really uncomfortable. So, usually guys could be like, hey, let's just slow the ball down. Let's just kind of knock it. You couldn't even do that, right? Because all over the field.
And you got to look at their run too. It's like they beat
Yeah,
Kenyon, they beat Messiah.
yeah, yeah,
You know, all these teams that have gone to this point have gone through
yeah,
an insane
yeah,
stretch. So
yeah,
I think any team personally in that Final Four could have
yeah.
won it, but like
When
University of Chicago is at
Yeah.
another
They were
level.
different. I think they were different level.
Yeah,
I've said all along, all season, I thought different level was Messiah and Chicago, and then Messiah against Williams just was that one game, right? Like that's all it came down to.
and Williams had again as far as
Yep.
important position, their keeper.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was a beast. Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. I was just looking at your schedule. What are what sort of plans do you guys have? I'm assuming you're done with the spring, right? Like you're done. Your sessions
Yes.
are all done.
So we finished up, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. Our guys had their final exams last week, so most of them are already gone home for the
Already
summer.
gone.
And
Yeah.
graduation is this Saturday. But
Yeah.
spring was pretty busy. I mean, we went to Costa Rica for like our
Ooh,
international.
yeah.
We get every 4 years. We played.
And you didn't invite me? Like what the?
Yeah.
We got to talk about this stuff,
Yeah,
man.
I know.
Like what?
Again, we can plan down the road. 4 years from now, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that point we'll have a couple more interviews. Who knows? We'll get you on that one. But we got to play 4 games. So our spring was long. Like we were going from, I think we went to Costa Rica in like March, and then we had the rest of our non-traditional season, which was spread over like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And we ended up finishing playing against Richard Bland, who was down near like Williamsburg area, junior college, and then we played against my alma mater, Lynchburg.
Yeah.
And we ended up with 2 results there, so we were really happy with the spring.
Yeah. Did you knowing your talent level, right? It's like way up here. Like what were your objectives? What was Coach Kirby and the staff's objectives for the spring? Like did you again, you sort of come off this great run. How do you I hate to say it, like you got to get back to work. And so I'm just curious, what does that work look like to prepare for the fall?
Yeah, so I mean, this is where I think Coach Kilby does a phenomenal job, again, just reiterating to the guys the importance of, once the season's done, really take your week, take your 2 weeks, whatever you need to, like, give back in terms of, like, being completely healthy physically, because at that point in the season, we were all worn down.
Oh, I'm sure.
Every single player that was playing significant minutes and or guys that were, again, just helping us out with maybe slightly less, but they're all dealing with knocks, everything. Like we had against, I'll never forget, against Amherst and against Bowdoin, one of our holding midfielder, Jordy Santana, was probably the sickest he had ever been. Like I think he might have had like strep throat or something, and I don't think it was strep, excuse me, but he was sick, and he played like the best soccer he'd ever played in those 2 games in Massachusetts in freezing cold weather. Yeah. Deathly sick. So our thing was like, get healthy, take your time, get yourself clear mentally. But as soon as like you guys go home, you got to go right back to work. And once we got back to schools again, it's you guys, we can't force you to train 5 days a week, but we can highly encourage it. And our captains, Josh Kirkland, again, the first third team All-American, and then one of our most influential players who actually didn't play a single minute for us this year, because he tore his ACL in the summer, Gabe Francisconi. They guided the guys, and I mean they put in probably the best like month and a half, 2 months before we got them. So by the time they came in and we were able to start training them again, like they were at a higher level than I think we were even at in the fall. So I think that's kind of just how important it was.
Did you freeze up?
Yeah, I think you did. I think we're back.
Oh, sorry. No, keep going. Sorry.
That time that they spent, right? This is the unique part of Division III, is that time they put in themselves without us being there, like eyes on, no instructions. It's just them. I think that was able to get them to come into the spring. And honestly, like we can both, I think all as a staff, look at it and be like, we are arguably better now than we were in the fall. And I think it's because we added two players this spring. We added Joel Albritton, who played at Old Dominion University, and he transferred, and he was a kid from Richmond that we had already originally recruited in the process. We were really close on, but he wanted to try the Division I route, and he came in and I think immediately raised the level. We got another transfer from Frostburg, Blake Hoskins. Same thing, really extremely athletic kid, played at Pipeline. I think he's going to push the group. So we added guys, even though we lost guys, right? We lost 4 guys in total. Our senior captain, Jacob Kautzman, who now ironically is going to be the grad assistant at Salisbury. Griffin Himmendinger, who's playing with the Annapolis Blues now. Dad Sony Abel, who was one of the biggest warriors I think we've ever had here in my time. And then Abel Lewis, who is probably one of the most electric wingers that you'll see in Division III athletics. Just unbelievable speed, pure technical ability. But we got guys that can now do the exact same thing and just push the others around them. Yeah. And I think this spring showed it. It's we wanted to see results by the end. We played 4 games in Costa Rica and then 2 games in our play day, and we were 6-0. So
wow,
we were really happy with it. And we were even in our 11v11 when we played, inside our team inter squad scrimmages, those were probably the most competitive games that I think we had all spring.
Yeah.
And it goes to show you is what we really want to see now is we believed we had a lot of depth this past year. if a guy comes off the level, just it's going to stay or even get high. And now, honestly, I think that depth is just as good, if not better.
Yeah, if not better. Speaking of depth, what does the recruiting class look like? How many guys are you? Is it? I mean, that's I guess I sort of know the answer, but are they positional recruits? Are you recruiting particular spots, or are you recruiting good soccer players, good men to come in and raise that level even more?
Yeah. So this is where again you got to probably the best recruiter that I've ever worked for is Jason Kilby. That is he loves it so much. He's always active, whether it's going out and watching games, watching training sessions, watching film online. The guy lives soccer. So really for us is when we're looking for recruits is I think at this point is we are looking for guys that can play multiple positions. We don't want to be searching for a center back that's only played as a center back in the 3-back system. We want guys that could play as a 6, guys that could play in the back, guys that can maybe play as a outside back that's able to get higher up and tuck in, whatever we want, right? So I think that we've got about 8 kids right now committed to this class. It's not going to be a super big class because we don't lose a lot, and we don't want that roster inflating to 30, 40 because then it's unrealistic. But we have really strong foundation as far as those young guys coming in. We have a few kids from SYC right up the road play for that MLS Next team. Have a kid from Herndon, a kid from Loudoun, kid from Charlottesville area. So we're super excited with the group, and I mean we again the interesting part is that Final Four appeal, making it that far. Certainly, I think aided in our pool expanding.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to ask. I was just thinking that the door is probably knocking a lot more now because you made the Final Four.
And I think it's expanded not only. I think we're getting more attention and attraction around the surrounding area. Again, Northern Virginia, Richmond, just Virginia, but I think it's gotten bigger. I'm getting emails from kids in Maine, kids in New Jersey, kids in upstate New York. Some kids in California, it's all over, which is good for us. I think it's better to have our program have more exposure nationally than just regionally, right?
Yeah. And I always say, especially those kids who are far away, if they're willing to make the commitment, you don't know the situation, their college situation locally, right? And you could be getting this guy who is fantastic, but whatever reason doesn't attract the Division I looks or whatever over in California, right? And the few Division III schools.
Exactly.
And he's I'm just going to go east and picks you guys. And lo and behold, it's a match, right? I think that's
the kids that we want here. We want guys that are good enough to play at the Division I level or to play, Division II, whatever.
Yeah.
all of the spectrums of NCAA athletics in terms of the tiers, like
Yeah.
Division 3 teams can compete with Division 1 teams. Division 2
Yeah.
teams can compete with Division 1 teams. NAIA teams can compete
Yeah.
with Division 1 teams. Obviously, like there's a level at the Division 1 level where it's almost professional. Like
Yeah.
they have full 11s, full 15, 16, 17, 18 guys that could potentially play at a different
Yeah.
level past college athletics. But for us, is we want kids that want to go high but end up at our place.
Has has Coach Kilby uh, like created or have sort of team goals for the fall yet, or is that something you do collectively as a team?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the consistent goals that we'll continue to have is, we want to make it back to the Final Four. That's great. Like that's the overarching goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for us is usually when we come in August and our guys have all summer to really again be a part of their own environments, improve, train, do all of that. Is we usually meet as a group and honestly, we let them decide what the goals for the season are going to be. Like we know what we want to achieve. We want to just be like consistent in terms of everyday actions. We want to be able to try and have an opportunity to win every single game that we play. We want to try and make sure that we're, if we aren't going to win a game, we want to score the last goal. Like simple things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But really, they're the ones that decide what the goals are for the season. Most of the times in the past, say like 2 or 3 seasons that I've been here,
Mm-hmm.
goals have been like we want to be undefeated at home.
Yeah.
We want to concede this amount of goals. All that sort of stuff, and they do a great job as far as creating those goals, posting them up in the locker room, holding themselves accountable to those
Mm-hmm.
goals. If they don't meet a goal, then usually like they're the ones that are really hard on themselves,
Themselves.
more
Yeah.
so than us. Which I
Yeah.
think that shows the whole culture pieces. If you can
Mm-hmm.
get a team that essentially can coach themselves
Yeah.
while still having the coaches there to really do the things that need to be done, then
Yeah.
I mean you've achieved like something that's very difficult to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very right when the team's bought in,
Yeah,
right? It's the only way I think of it, right? Like if they have those goals and they're totally committed to them,
yeah,
right? I mean, I, your job and Coach Kilby's job is not easy, but it makes it easier for you.
yeah,
And you're not fighting the team to
exactly.
drag them along, right? They're going whether you want to or not. Sometimes they're ahead of you, right? And
I mean, I think that's the theme that I've found at every place that I have able to be a part of a championship winning team in some capacity is that you find that the top player from number 1
mm-hmm.
all the way to like let's say 28, 33 on the roster
Yeah,
all contribute in some way. And I think this
yeah,
past year making that run to the Final Four, if you were to look at like the last guy on our roster, right? Like the guy
yeah,
that probably didn't play a lot, like
yeah,
very few games, very few minutes, like was still one of the most influential players in
yeah,
terms of just
yeah,
like creating that
yeah,
chemistry, like being a good teammate, pushing
yeah,
others, and accepting his role, which
yeah.
a lot of guys don't want to do that. Like
Don't know.
it's
No, no.
understandable. It's
Yeah,
understandable.
yeah. That's true, though, right? Like again, you don't succeed. Like I always say, iron sharpens iron. So you always want to play the best competition you can. If you're going to get to the top, right? If you're
Yep.
going to get to the Final Four, you have to play. You have to play a schedule like yours, where you test yourself,
Yeah.
day in and day out. The other thing is you're not going to win with 11 players,
Nope.
right? 11 players on the field are as happy and content and want to, like, hey, this is great. You're not even gonna win necessarily with 15. To
No.
me, it's like you got to get everyone brought on board and
Yep.
feel like they are contributing something to
100%.
the program and to the success, right? And so if I'd love to hear that kudos to that whoever that number 33 guy was, right? Because that's huge to me. That
Yeah.
says speaks volumes about character, commitment, and being a part of a team, right? Where you sort of let go of your ego a little bit to, you know, see what's best for the team. So shout out to that guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love those guys. Like I just do.
Those guys are the glue, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Oh my gosh, they're the glue. They can be the glue just as much, just so much better than being the cancer, right?
Yep.
Because you can have guys like that too,
100%.
and I think that blow up your locker room because they're just discontent. And,
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that road. I hate talking negativity in this world today, so
Brutal,
I try to avoid that.
Absolutely.
All right, hey coach, this was great. You represented assistant coaches in Division III from around the country very well. Acquitted assistant coaches. This was fantastic. Really enjoyed talking. Really a fan of what Coach Kilby and what you and what the rest of the staff have done and the program. I thought you guys are a fantastic example of what it means to play Division III soccer, and give you guys a lot of credit.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and getting the chance to talk about UMW, our program, and get myself out there a little bit more. It's really cool to be able to be on these, and I appreciate it, Paul.
I'm trying, given, like I said, I'm an equal opportunity guy. Like, I don't care. Like, I just like talking about the game,
Yeah.
like there's worse things to be doing. And, I'm such a tough interviewer, like putting, waterboarding my questions on you. So
Yeah, I mean, I got to pull this thing off here. I mean, we don't have video anymore.
Yeah. There's a cost. There is indeed a cost to my interviews.
We'll see if we can get you we'll see if we can get you a scarf or something. I'll send
there
it
you go. That's it. You know what? I jest, but there is space for one more scarf behind me.
See, you have I have a scarf ladder that I've started. I'm just hanging them all over. And that's just from clubs and games that I've been to. So I'm a huge fan of that. So we will definitely get one for you.
That sounds good. All right, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, you too. If you like this show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on anti-social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks. This is a message from my Chief Marketing Officer. I think this keeps him happy.